Alright guys, welcome back for another video on HAIKYU Fly High, and today we are going to do an updated SP memory tier list. Now it has been about 4 or 5 months since I last posted my tier list, and there's 10 new brand new SP memories added onto the JP server, so I'm just going to include them into my tier list now to see where they will be ranking. Now what you see on my screen right now are the pretty much the same tier as I had previously. However, I am actually going to be moving 3 of the existing memories you see on the screen into different tiers because they have now actually been power crept a bit. Now, I won't actually tell you guys which 3 memories going to be right now just because of spoiler alert, etc. But if you guys are interested, obviously keep on watching the video. However, if you have more questions about exactly why I place certain memories in certain tiers, they may be also helpful to revisit my previous tier list video, which I will pin it in the comment section as well. Okay, so let's start off with the first new SP memory that I didn't talk about last time, which is going to be SP Hiragami's one. Now for this one, I almost made a brand new tier. This time, well, not just for this memory, but for a bunch of memory, which is this kind of niche tier, which is basically saying that vast majority of the time, you probably wouldn't be placing a memory playing a memory on this tier unless it's for very specific team composition or very specific reasons. Okay, so it's not even like the specific S tier, which is more like specific to character. Niche is more talking about kind of the team composition itself. It's going to be fairly niche. Okay, now the reason why Hiragami's one is going to be in this niche A tier is because if you just want a memory, which is going to improve the mid blocker's own blocking capability, there are lots of other better options. For example, I own this one. It's going to be a much better option than Hiragami's own SP memory. However, what is nice about SP Hiragami's own memory is that it's also able to increase the quick attack stats for your team when you actually have 4 block label characters, and that can actually potentially be helpful for certain types of club contest game modes. For example, when it's a quick specialty or block specialty and you want to further increase the quick spiking stats for your let's say SP Korite so that he hits a bit harder for his spikes, etc. So this one does have that kind of tiny bit of supporting ability from being a mid block memory, which not many other mid block memory is capable of doing. So that's kind of why I'm going to put it into niche A tier. Realistically, I probably think this would only be useful in those very, very specific scenarios. For example, the block and also quick specialty club contest versions when you are also play SP Korra, etc. So those may not be enough to justify summoning for it, but just bear in mind there is going to be that kind of niche scenario where it can be potentially better than others. Okay. So that's kind of why this is in the niche A tier. Then the next 2, I'm also going to move into the niche tier, which is going to be SP Lief and also SP Kenma's memory. This one's a bit of a hot take, but the reason why I'm going to place both of them in the niche tier is because, so basically both of the memory gets a huge amount buff when you perform perfect actions. But the same with this game is that when you perform perfect actions, a lot of the time, that's already going to be much higher likelihood of you already winning that point. So I guess in some sense, those 2 memories are a bit of a black box to me in the sense that I feel like in order to trigger the condition for those 2 memory, you are already going to be very likely to win those points anyway. So in those kind of cases, what's the point of an even bigger buff when you're already, let's say, 90% likelihood to win those points, right? So that's kind of why I feel like I can't really quantify exactly what's going to be the impact for those 2 memory, and that's kind of why I'm just going to place it in the niche A tier, because to me, it's just like a bigger number, but it's not really going to impact the outcome of the match. So that's kind of why they're here. Now the next one is also a bit of a tricky one, which is going to be SP Tanaka's one. I was debating a bit on whether or not I want to put it in universal tier or specific tier, but in the end, I think I'm going to go with the universal tier. Now the reason for this is that this one does have a trigger condition where the enemy blocker needs to have a debuff, so that kind of makes it specific to certain characters, but at the same time, a lot of the most common characters in this game are able to land debuff. So for example, SP Kuro, SP Suki, SP Okawa, are there are also other memories which can help you to achieve this as well. So that's kind of what I feel like. Even though this is somewhat specific to your team composition, there are so many ways of achieving that condition that I almost want to say it's like semi-universal. You should be able to trigger vast majority of the time. So that's kind of why in the end I'm going to put it in the universal S tier. Okay. Next one is gonna be for Yamamoto. This one's definitely universal S tier. This one's probably the best wind spike memory if you just want to increase strength stats. So depending on what kind of skill multipliers your so stats multiplier your wind spiker has, if he's lacking strength the most, then Yamamoto's memory is going to be the best choice for him. Okay, definitely very universal. There's no really any trigger condition for it to happen. But pretty much you can trigger this every single time, guaranteed. Then the next one is going to be SP Hinata V2, and this one I'm going to put it into specific S tier, and also at the same time I am actually now going to downgrade SP Hinata V1's memory. Now the reason why I have made this move is because both of those memory are focused on increasing strengths, and obviously SP Hinata's V2 version is able to provide much bigger strength numbers than SP Hinata V1 memory. So that's kind of why this one's here. It does have a condition of have to be unblockable quick spike, but let's be honest, all of the quick spike mid blockers all have ways of guaranteeing unblockable spikes. So this is actually very easy to trigger. Now, having said that, I didn't really move the SP Hunter V11 down to B tier because on top of the fact that it's able to provide strength buff, it is also able to provide the debuff to the enemy for quite a few net crossings, which can then in turn help you to achieve certain conditions such as enabling your SP Tanaka's memory for you to activate. So that's kind of why I do feel there's still going to be a niche usage due to that debuff ability. So that's kind of why I have it in the niche A tier here. Okay. Then the next one, SP memory, is going to be SP Kageyama's memory. And this one, I'm going to put it into the universal S tier because the stats it's able to provide is going to be attack technique and also strength, which are basically universal for any kind of situation. And also the trigger condition is going to be quite straightforward as well, which is using a strength using a set ultimate, which obviously if you're going to put on the setter, vast majority of the time they're going to have a set ultimate. So this is very easy to trigger. And because I have put this in the universal S tier, I am now actually also going to downgrade SP Okawa's memory down to B tier because SP Okawa's memory is able to provide a huge number of buff across different stats. However, if you talk about all of the stats it's able to provide, you don't really care about power spiking, you don't really care about quick spiking, etc. On Okawa, the main one you really care about is going to be attack technique and strength, and SP Kageyama's memory actually provide much bigger attack technique and also strength numbers than SP Okawa's one, and also SP Okawa's one actually have an attack tempo condition as well. So that's kind of why I feel like with the introduction of SP Kageyama's memory, SP Okawa's memory just completely lost its edge, and there's just really no reason to play at all. So that's kind of why now this is actually going to be down up to B tier. Next one's going to be SP Nishinoya V2 memory. This one's going to go into the universal S tier. There's only a handful of SP liberal memories, and this one's definitely the most universal out of them all. I removed the Komori memory here because Komori's memory is over the UR rather than SP, but even in comparison to Komori's memory, which has to have a bit of a conditional trigger condition for your spikers, this one doesn't provide any buff for spikers. However, all of the buff it's able to provide for itself are very, very easy to trigger. So that's kind of why this is going to go into the universal S tier. The next up, we are going to have our One's memory, Aona V2. This one's actually very similar to Aona V1's one, which is also able to improve your defense technique and also block. This one's a bit more tailored towards increasing defense technique, whereas the V11 increased block a bit more and only a tiny bit of defense technique, but the two are very similar. On top of that, this one can also increase attack technique in case you want to place it on someone such as Suki or maybe Liev, who can do both block and also quick spike, etc. So there are definitely going to be quite a few different characters which can utilize this, and that's kind of why I'm going to put this in the universal S tier. And then the last new memory that is on JP is going to be SP Futakuchi's one. And this one is also going to go into the universal S tier. And also at the same time, I am now also going to downgrade Ginjima's one down to B tier as well, because now it has been completely power cracked by SP Futakuchi's one. Now the reason for this is SP Futa. Actually, no. You know what? I'm gonna put Ginjima's one in niche A tier. I think there's still gonna be a slight difference. But previously the reason why I have Ginjima's one up in universal S tier is because it can actually provide a buff, which is actually going to be quite rare for wind spike and memories. So basically, you're able to spike once, leave a permanent buff onto the team, and then sub him off, which is actually quite nice, especially in club contest settings, etc. However, now Futakuchi's memory is also able to do the same thing, and the buff he's able to provide is actually going to be a lot higher than what Ginjima's one is able to provide. So that's kind of why this one kind of power creeps Ginjima's one. However, having said that, Ginjima's one also does provide a tiny bit of buff to the equipper of the memory as well. So not only has that supporting ability, it also does increase the power of the equipper at the same time. So that's kind of what I feel like there is potentially still going to be niche use. Obviously, if you wanted to be purely focused on firepower, you're probably better off to equip some other wind spike memory. However, if you want to purely use that memory for supportive ability, then obviously Futakuchi's one is going to be better. But just in case there's a niche scenario where you need to balance both things at the same time, then Gijima can still potentially be used for those kind of situations. So that's kind of why in the end I'm going to put this in the niche A tier. Okay. But yeah, so that's going to be an update to the SP memory tier list. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section.